Pausa rapidinho agora para falar de dica de ouro para os papais e mamães. Depois de experimentar a nova Hug Supreme Care Fralda Roupinha, tudo ficou ainda melhor pro meu filho. É a única com canais em X que se adaptam aos movimentos, com 2 vezes proteção noturna e cintura elástica que se adapta ao corpinho do bebê, além de ser super fácil de colocar e tirar. Praticidade pura. Então guarda essa dica. Nova Hug Supreme Care Fralda Roupinha. Bebê, estamos juntos nessa, mais do que nunca. Agora curta seu podcast.
Uma pausa no seu podcast para falar sobre a beleza, essa força poderosa que nos move. No Grupo L'Oréal, nós criamos a beleza com sustentabilidade. Utilizamos em nossas embalagens 85% de plástico PET de origem reciclada. 65% dos ingredientes vieram de base biológica ou derivados de minerais abundantes. Grupo L'Oréal. Nós criamos a beleza que move o mundo.
Interrompemos esse podcast para perguntar: quem você quer ser?
Designer, engenheira, pedagoga,
administrador.
Quer saber? O Senac EAD é nota máxima no MEC. Tem cursos de diversas áreas, com conteúdo elaborado por especialistas do mercado e professores mestres e doutores. Ainda tem o Senac Carreiras, conectando estudantes a vagas de emprego em todo o país. Saiba mais em ead.senac.br/graduação.
Dear Mr. President, please step down. I'm losing sleep over this. I really don't want to start taking Lunesta. I'd rather you just step down.
Right.
Trying to stay off Lexapro.
Welcome to Millennial, the home of pretend adulting and real talk with your pals, and the official podcast of America's first Millennial VP nominee, JD Vance.
My God.
We were legally obligated to say that. As a podcast that is named Millennial, here is a Millennial VP candidate, the first.
We don't claim him, though.
No, I know.
He can't sit with us.
Yeah. Well, we were off last week. Did anything happen in the last couple of weeks? But first, a bit of listener feedback from Brienne. She said, as a high school teacher, I loved the episode 2 weeks ago about phones in schools. Cell phones are extremely challenging with high school students and their parents. Our district is also adopting a cell phone policy. Thanks for the content. Well, thanks for writing in, Brienne. I'm glad you liked that discussion. And by the way, don't forget Spotify users. As always, you can leave us feedback on any episode post, and we might publish it right within the episode post page on Spotify, which is a pretty cool feature, or we might read it on air. No matter how you submit feedback, we do really appreciate it. So, Laura, we just had a good laugh, but a lot's been going on in the political world.
Was it a good laugh?
I thought it was a good moment on the show, but it wasn't like a, oh, this is great laugh.
Listen, it's great content for the show. This is horrible for all of our lives because we're just continuing to experience unprecedented historical events every day now, it seems. We wanted to touch back on the subject of Joe Biden as the Democratic nominee for president, especially following that debate performance. We talked about it a bit a couple weeks ago, but we didn't have the heart or the energy at that time to really go in on that discussion. And quite a bit has happened since then. We talked about JD Vance at the top of the show, and Biden had a couple of different press conferences, and someone tried to assassinate Trump.
Mm-hmm.
And that, I think, was the twist none of us really saw coming. Like, gotta choose my words carefully here. It's an unfortunate reality of being like a public, big political figure like this, that this happens and it shouldn't happen. But it's been so horrible that it didn't even cross my mind that this would just be like added fuel to the fire of this campaign season. It's exhausting.
He's also just so divisive as a person, and that is not to excuse anybody for trying to assassinate him. Nobody deserves that, right? We're not condoning that at all. But and I guess part of me like it was kind of like I almost didn't believe it when I think Andrew started texting us about it because I was out. And I thought it was a joke. A friend texted
me about it.
And I think it was just because I don't know. I just thought that I didn't I processed it, but I wasn't like processing it until I clicked on the Twitter thread or the Twitter link. And I was like, oh shit, like this is like a real thing. And I think part of the reason why is because like he has been so divisive for his entire political career that I guess like maybe subconsciously we all kind of thought, well, it's out of the realm of possibility because he's never really been in danger before.
And it seems like there were major security lapses between the police department in Butler, Pennsylvania, and the Secret Service. It's been very interesting to watch different angles of it, particularly when you that angle of video where you see Trump and in the background you see the Secret Service shooters on the roof, and they seem to be looking in the direction of the shooter the whole time, and yet they only react after. Now, of course, just moving your gun a little bit at that distance, you're going to cover a lot of ground. But still, that was an interesting perspective to see it from. It looks like that roof should have been covered that the shooter did shoot from. That all aside, though, Biden did come out and make a couple of statements in his primetime address to the nation from the Oval Office. He said we need to turn the temperature down in this country. And of course, we've so far been talking about that from the angle of the right. But I do agree with him, and I think the only way we're going to get the right to the table with us on the left is to admit that we've been ramping up the rhetoric too. Not as much as the right, in my opinion, but we have been doing it a bit ourselves. And I think we just need to take the higher road here and say, you know what? We'll turn it down too if you all turn it down as well.
I just don't believe they're going to. I just don't believe it.
I mean, look at, I know this is a bad example, but look at Marjorie Taylor Greene. She was already out there running her mouth right after it happened, even though so many people who were way more level-headed were calling for, a more reasonable approach. And so to your point, Laura, I see stuff like that and I just think like, you're never going to get through to some people. And unfortunately, that also includes some people that have major power and influence in this country.
Yeah.
Well, I think the big question is going to be, how is Trump going to conduct himself over the next week, the remainder of the RNC, and over the next 4 months, and even after that? I mean, that's going to be very telling. If he keeps the temperature down, I think we're in a great situation. I've seen some people speculate maybe the shooting rocked him so much. And look, he's a 78-year-old man who almost died on Saturday. Maybe he will be so rocked by this that it will change his rhetoric. I'm not feeling particularly optimistic about that based on what we've seen in the last 8 years, but you can hope. I mean, this was a major, major thing that happened to him and that happened to this country. So I think really just comes down to how he handles himself over the next 4 months. That's it. That's it.
Yeah. I think, though, it kind of plays to his favor for him to act a little more subdued, a little less bombastic, if you will. If he's carrying himself with a level of decorum, yeah, that would probably help turn down the temperature for a lot of people. I think there could be other consequences of that that I will
like
not
earning sympathy of people on the fence. Maybe
I will not speak it into existence, but I have at times thought and expressed privately in our group chat that I'm concerned about that, but I'm not going to speak it into existence.
Well, I mean, now you just have yourself between a rock and a hard place, because it's like you don't want Trump to win, but you also want him to turn the temperature down. So what's the answer there? What do you want?
I think the unfortunate reality is that there are far fewer expectations of Trump than there are of Biden. The bar for Trump is way lower than it is for Biden. And over these last few weeks since that debate, there have been multiple reasons for people to be concerned about whether or not Biden is the right candidate to go up against Trump this year. And that's really what we wanted to talk about today. Because honestly, I feel mixed about this. I'll admit, after the debate, I was shook. And I was like, there's no fucking way that they run this guy for president. They just can't. And there have been multiple other gaffes and lapses and just concerning things that have happened in interviews and press conferences over the last couple of weeks that still had me feeling really concerned about, whether or not, right or wrong, Joe Biden would be able to carry the election. I don't know. I'm feeling a little mixed about it at this point. So I thought we could start there and just say, are we pro Biden stepping down? Are we against Biden stepping down? Obviously, for everyone at home, no one on this panel is voting third party or, God forbid, Trump, or not voting. We are all obviously voting for whoever the Democrats run in November.
I am still pro Biden should step down. After hearing a lot of discussion about this over the last couple of weeks, there have been a couple of points that make a lot of sense to me. First of all, we're still 4 months away. We still have the DNC coming up in about a month.
Yeah.
Countries in Europe do this a lot faster than we do. And Americans, as I said a couple of weeks ago on the show, are looking for a new choice. They're tired of Biden and Trump. So let's give them a third choice, so to speak, in somebody who will replace Biden. I think that would be very exciting for the left. I think it would make it a very exciting election. And of course, we have to pick a strong candidate. I think it has to be Kamala. She is the current VP.
Yeah.
She is the first Black, South Asian woman vice president. It would be insulting to her on so many levels and to women in this country if we pick somebody else, especially a guy, and insulting to all of her accomplishments thus far. And she's already well known in this country. We know she would be able to kick ass in a debate. I can't wait, assuming nothing changes. I can't wait to watch her debate JD Vance. So I think it has to be her. There's no other option.
I think so too. I mean, also, if for nothing else, she could use Biden's campaign funds. No other candidate would be able to access that. So that's huge.
And you get Biden to endorse her. I mean, the power of the left would throw themselves behind her if that was the choice. Like right now, there's discussion of who it should be. Biden come out, say, I want Kamala to have this, assuming Kamala wants it. Biden supports her. Everybody else will follow. And that's it. What we're going to have to live with, though, is that no matter what happens, if Biden, Kamala, whoever loses in November, we will always wonder if we made the right choice then. If Kamala steps up and she loses, we're going to be like, shit, maybe Biden should have stayed. And if it's backwards, we may be like, shit, maybe we should have put Kamala in.
And I was just going to say, too, that I don't really think she has the popular vote. I mean, I'm not saying that Trump does, but like she's kind of divisive. People either love her or hate her. It's really hard for people that have already made up their mind about her to get on board. And I don't know if I wish they would have done this earlier. And I also wish she would have been a little bit more like present, I guess. She's not really like out there a lot. She hasn't been out there a lot in the VP position. That's not to say she's not doing her job behind the scenes, but I wish they had set her up for a little bit more success in that regard and maybe helped her public image, because even when Biden announced her the first time around as his VP pick, it was still like, it wasn't like a controversial choice, but people had really strong opinions about her one way or the other. She's not like universally beloved. It was easy for a lot of people to get behind Biden because it was Uncle Joe, right?
Yeah.
And by they needed to set her up more, you're
the
referring
Biden
to the Biden administration.
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
And I think we'll look back on this year and say that was probably one of the biggest mistakes. Biden at one point did say he was just going to be kind of like a bridge president. He's going to run for one term. He's not going to run again. He is on record saying that. And they could have been setting her up this whole time. But instead, they've been keeping her in the shadows.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And now we're in this position where there's concern over whether Kamala could compete on a national level.
Yeah. I will say that her approval rating is slightly higher than Joe's, and her disapproval rating is a lot lower than his. So, I mean, they're maybe polling to support it at the same time. Polls don't fucking mean anything anymore. So it's kind of irritating that we don't have a better way to know. And I think we might have a better way to know if the administration had been, to Pam's point, setting her up for this moment, because I genuinely always thought Biden was going to step down and not seek a second term, and that he was going to be that transition to Kamala Harris. And for whatever reason, he's not ready for it. The administration's not ready for it. The DNC is not ready for it. I don't know. But it's irritating for sure.
I almost kind of feel like it becomes a source of like of pride, right? Like ego kind of gets in the way,
Mm-hmm.
but this is no time for egos to get in the way. So it's unfortunate that probably plays a role in it.
Well, I have a question. If Biden does leave, when do we think it will happen?
I think it has to happen before the DNC, right? Or you mean
Yes.
announce that he's stepping down? So
I hope it's ASAP because
Yeah.
Right.
we're running out of time. It's making me anxious. Like, if they're going to do it, they should just do it.
Yeah, but he's doubling down. I mean, he just in the last couple of days has done interviews and released statements saying, nope, absolutely not. I'm still in it. And I will give him that his responses over the weekend to the assassination attempt on Trump, he did pretty well. I thought in particular his Oval Office address was really good. There was this really smart moment where they had him package the assassination attempt on Trump with the other acts of violence that Trump has inspired, like January 6th, then the plot to kidnap Gretchen Whitmer, and the attack on Nancy Pelosi's husband. And he ended it by being like, and an assassination attempt on Donald Trump. So like, I thought that was all really smart and well done. It's just, it doesn't carry as much weight because there's been so much that has raised concern about Biden's acuity to do this job.
By the way, we did a poll in our Discord, and everybody who's listening live tonight feels that Biden should step down. So take that for what you will.
Yeah. Like Pam said, if he's going to, he needs to do it soon. I mean, like I said, there have been multiple things. I mean, at the NATO summit, referring to Volodymyr Zelensky, who is the president of Ukraine, introducing him as President Putin.
He caught himself there at least, but
yeah,
the live press conference where he said Vice President Trump and didn't catch himself in the answer to the first question that was off teleprompter, that was a facepalm moment for me.
Yeah.
I screamed watching that live.
Honestly, I was screaming watching that whole press conference because the contrast to him being on a teleprompter and then going off to take questions was so stark. You expect a little bit of a difference for anyone, but like it was bad. And like he deflected, because every single question was about his cognition and his ability to like do this. And he deflected every single one of those questions by talking about NATO or talking about the economy. And like, listen, I understand sometimes you need to do that in politics because the press is going to like try to play gotcha over things that are maybe not that big of a deal, but this is a big deal. And people are justified in having concerns about it and wanting genuine answers about the president's health.
So the DNC starts August 19th. Let's all predict specific dates. I'm going to say August, lucky number 7. He'll announce he's stepping down by.
Isn't the anniversary of Nixon resigning coming up?
August 8th. You want to take August 8th?
I'll take August 8th. He's setting a precedent.
I feel like they're going to push it. I'm going to say the 19th, the DNC date.
Oh,
like he'll announce there.
I thought you were going to say like tomorrow because you said you're losing sleep over this.
I am losing sleep over it, but I don't expect them to hear my pleas.
Dear Mr. President, please step down. I'm losing sleep over this. I really don't want to start taking Lunesta. I'd rather you just step down.
Right.
I'm trying to stay off Lexapro.
Do we think that it's more likely? Because, I mean, honestly, there are a couple of pretty significant realities here that he's either going to step down or die. Most likely, I think he would die before he like willingly stepped down before the election and pass the baton to Kamala, or he's going to step down or die, most likely die during his second term. So do we, assuming he wins the election or that he were to win the election, what's going to happen?
That is it. This is pretty grim, even by your standards, but I think that...
I don't know. This is pretty... I don't know. I don't think it's that grim by my standards.
It's an interesting point that you raise. She might become president either way. So why not run her in the general election?
Well, so here's the thing. And this is something that probably has the Republicans a little bit terrified if Kamala took over during Joe's second term because he dies. That would not count as her first term. She would be serving out the rest of his term. So she would not be running for her first term until after she had served out the rest of Biden's, meaning theoretically, Kamala Harris could spend longer than 8 years as president if this were to play out in this way.
I just love that for how angry that'll make the right.
Yeah.
The first woman to become vice president, and she was president longer than Trump.
They're just going to put their tinfoil hats on and be like, she was playing the long game. This was the plan all along. That's literally what's going to happen.
Yeah. I mean, that's going to be the rhetoric the rest of the campaign is a vote for Joe Biden is a vote for Kamala Harris.
Yeah. But you could have said the same about, we did say the same about Trump and Pence.
Mm-hmm.
Because we knew Trump was not going to know what the hell he was doing in there.
Never let people on the right forget that Pence did not come back to run with Trump. That should never be forgotten. We must always remind the right of that. That tells you everything you need to know about Trump.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I do know somebody who could run as a Democrat. And actually, she's on this panel.
No.
She just turned 35. Laura, you could do it. In this day and age, anything you've said on this show in the past 10 years, it doesn't matter anymore. None of that is offensive in a general election.
I mean, it does because I'm a woman.
Well, I don't know.
Twice.
I guess we'd have to review some remarks. But
No.
I want to see you run. You can run for president. You're now 35. I would run, but I'm just another white dude.
Yeah, but you're gay.
Yeah, but that's what Pete's for. We got
True.
Pete.
Pam can run.
No, I'm not smart enough, but I'll follow you anywhere.
Pam's a coastal elite. She would never win.
That's true.
She's just like Kamala.
I'm not one with the people like you are in the South.
Yeah, you got the Southern vote locked up.
Yeah, okay, I'll do it if Pam will be my VP.
All right.
Then I'll do it.
You could just shove me into the shadows like the Biden administration did with Kamala.
I would never.
I'm sorry, ladies, but America is not ready for 2 women in the White House.
It's just 4 years of Laura and I holding hands in the White House.
Honestly, it would be wonderful.
Freaking out.
And can you imagine the radical, like in a very positive way, not in like a, right-wing rhetoric kind of way, but like the changes that we would see.
Yeah.
And the attempts at respect. Although, honestly, politics is a shit show. And honestly, I think to be an effective politician, you have to be willing to make a lot of compromises that I don't know that I would ever be willing to make. So in that, I am not a good choice for this job.
Just pretend. Just lie your way into the White House. Don't be so honest.
What is scary though is that for a lot of stuff that like there's like no real right or wrong answer. It's all like happening in a test tube, right? This is what I learned from my international relations degree is that there's really no right answer. You just have to argue why you think your answer is the right one. And if you're in power, you hope for the best. And if it doesn't work out, then the person after you takes the other road.
Yeah. So I took, Pam, very similar to you, I took a politics of education course in grad school. And the teacher said something in there that it will stick with me forever, which is that there is no possible outcome where everyone succeeds. In order for the system to function, there will always be winners and losers. And that rocked me. I was like, fuck that. Definitely no. I don't want to go into any kind, and like I already knew, but I definitely at that point was like, I do not want to go into public service.
Listeners, I tried. I really tried to get Laura to run. We're teed up. We're Laura teed up. We got a perfect opportunity. Biden's halfway out the door. We need some fresh young blood in there. And here's Laura just like, no, swatting it away. Oh, well.
I think you're just trying to like boost the profile of our show.
Yeah.
And you're like, why doesn't Laura just run for president?
What better
that's like
way?
The easier option, right?
I mean, that's what JD Vance is doing. He hated Trump 8 years ago. And now his VP pick. He's doing it so he can sell books down the road. He's already a successful author. He wants to keep that up for the rest of his career.
Mm-hmm.
He played Trump like a fiddle.
Yeah, I mean, he's basically mini Trump.
Well, should we move on?
Yeah. You're not going to convince me.
I've come to accept this. Anything else to say about JD Vance? Laura, you kind of like this news in that it's probably one of Trump's worst picks.
Yes.
For VP.
Thank you for bringing that up, because my thinking is JD Vance he's basically just, Trump, but 40 years younger. And that doesn't really get Trump any new votes. It doesn't win him anyone who wasn't already voting for him. Whereas there were some other choices that might have shaken loose more independent or undecided voters. So it was a curious choice.
Yeah.
Curious choice by Curious Donald.
Here are some past comments on Trump from JD Vance. Might be America's Hitler, which is hilarious to me because the right has been saying the left calls Trump Hitler. Now here's Trump's VP candidate on record once calling him Hitler. He is also saying... These comments are so funny. And by the way, all the comments I am reading were reported by Fox News in a graphic. He said that Trump might be a cynical a-hole. He said that he's cultural heroin. He said he's noxious and reprehensible. He said, I'm a never Trump guy. Never liked him. Terrible candidate. Idiot if you voted for him. And we're supposed to believe that in the last 8 years, he has shifted this far away from those stances. I can't think of a single person who I considered to be similar to Hitler 8 years ago, who I have now evolved my opinion on.
Really? Not a single one?
Not a single one. If I'm calling someone Hitler in 2016, what? Things have only gotten worse since then. So yeah.
I hope they bring up some of those quotes in the VP debate.
Oh, Kamala has already got these on 2 index cards. She's going to memorize these.
She's a great debater, so.
Because you're right. How do you go from saying someone is Hitler to being like, actually, he's not a bad guy?
Sure. I'll run the country with you.
I guess similar to how Trump said that some of the people at the insurrection were good people.
Some, I assume. Yeah.
Yeah. It's again, it's very interesting. I don't think any of us got that right. I know we did predictions on the holiday show last year about who Trump was going to pick, and I don't recall that anyone said JD Vance.
No, I think I said that he was going to, oh my God. I just blanked on his name. Florida.
DeSantis.
DeSantis or Rubio?
Yeah, I said I think I predicted DeSantis that he would throw a curveball in there and they'd like join evil forces.
I chose Kristi Noem, and part of me is convinced that she may have been the pick until the whole story about her shooting her dog came out.
Yeah, couldn't have seen that coming.
Yeah. Well, she could have, because she shot the dog like 14 years ago.
The dog sure didn't see it coming.
Oh.
I predicted Nikki Haley.
No, she took too many votes from him in the primary. He's salty at her.
So we were all wrong about the VP picks, and I assume we're all going to be wrong when it comes to Biden stepping down.
Probably.
Cool. That's what you come to Millennial for.
Yeah, I hope this time a year from now that we're not living under a Trump presidency. But,
yeah,
now's a good time to renew your passport. You just want options.
Yeah, might be a good time to do it because maybe you want to go to the Olympics.
Oh.
And we'll talk about them right after this break.
Pausa rapidinho agora para falar de dica de ouro para os papais e mamães. Depois de experimentar a nova Hug Supreme Care Fralda Roupinha, tudo ficou ainda melhor para o meu filho. É a única com canais em X que se adaptam aos movimentos, com 2 vezes proteção noturna e cintura elástica que se adapta ao corpinho do bebê, além de ser super fácil de colocar e tirar. Praticidade pura. Então guarda essa dica. Nova Hug Supreme Care Fralda Roupinha. Bebê, estamos juntos nessa, mais do que nunca. Agora curta seu podcast.
Well, as Andrew teased, the Olympics are coming. We're about a little less than 2 weeks away from the start of the Summer Olympics out in Paris. But plot twist, the River Seine, which is, the big river that runs through Paris, where some of the swimming events are meant to take place, actually still isn't safe for swimming. And this is a huge headline. It's been a headline for a while, but I think because we're really close to when these games are going to kick off, people are really kind of kicking this headline into high gear. So currently the plan is still for the Olympic marathon swimming event and also the swimming portion of the triathlon to take place in the river near the Alexander III Bridge. But the issue is that the river is severely polluted and the water levels are still testing positive for high levels of E. coli. So this is very bad news. Yeah. Swimming in the Seine has actually been illegal for more than a century, and it's as a result of pollution, though there have been some swimming events that have been held there or have been permitted to be held there in the past. And it's purely out of luck that, the E. coli levels and the bacteria levels aren't high enough to actually cause some serious damage to these athletes. But this is pretty embarrassing for Paris, who still, I double checked before we started this segment. They're still doubling down and saying the river is going to be ready and mostly E. coli free by the time the games start. And this was a key part of their bid to host 2024, that they promised that the river would be clean by the time the games started. And they've actually already pumped over $1.5 billion into cleaning up the Seine, and that clearly still hasn't helped. Parisians are obviously pissed, so they definitely don't want us to come visit Paris for a number of reasons, but they're definitely mad about having to fork over this chunk of change because obviously it's coming out of taxes and stuff. And so in an effort to protest, they actually set up an online campaign urging people to poop in the Seine on June 23rd. And this date is particularly significant because this was when France's President Macron and also the Paris mayor Hidalgo had vowed to swim in the Seine to show that it was clean enough for Olympic athletes. So obviously this didn't happen. But Hidalgo is still promising to swim in the river before the Olympics kick off. So I guess we'll see how that turns out.
Update. Andrew from 12 Hours in the Future checking in. Hidalgo did swim in the river on Wednesday morning. As far as we can tell, she survived.
Why would you announce the date that you're going to swim in the river? Like,
yeah, that was definitely a major mistake.
Especially when you know you're not well liked.
And people are threatening to poop in it.
Yeah. Right. Like, come on.
The operation was like so extreme. They had a website that you could go to like punch in your address just in case you didn't live in Paris proper, so that you could like time your shit well enough so that it would travel to the Seine in time to pollute the water down there for this dip that never happened.
That's amazing. I just have to say, the French know how to protest. I feel like in this country, you know, we commit like property damage against our own capital for, you know, a free and fair election just because we don't like the outcome. But in France, they're like, nah, if this motherfucker's going to take a dip in this river, we're going to make sure to dirty it up again.
Yeah.
Would you two participate in these protests? Would you drop a deuce in the River Seine?
No, that's too much work.
Too much. Oh, typical Americans. Too much effort.
But like, I guess my question is, are they going to literally like shit in the river, or are they shitting and then
bringing it to the river?
Their shit and dropping it in the river. You know what I mean?
I assume it'll be a mix of both, right?
Okay.
Yeah, but you also don't want to like get in that water.
No. But you could kind of just like back your ass up to the edge of the river and try to project. Never mind. This is getting gross.
You've thought about this.
No. I personally would just bag it and then toss it in. I would not go number 2 directly into the river. I'm not going to moon all of Paris. That seems mooning. Is there a word on Urban Dictionary for like mooning and pooping in public? Like,
is it mooping?
Although I feel like
I don't know. I just made that up.
Americans are such prudes. I feel like it might not be as big of a deal for you to moon somebody across the banks of the River Seine.
Well, that concludes the WTF portion of this Olympic segment. But I did want to point out, too, that, you know, we are seeing all these headlines right now about whether or not the Seine will be ready, whether or not Paris will be ready for the Olympics. And it's important to point out that the media loves to harp on this drama every time the Olympics come around. And just to kind of give you all an idea of how true that is, I pulled a few examples from past years. So we have headlines here from the Washington Post. Is China ready to host the Winter Olympics? Vox, Rio Olympics, will Brazil be ready? Why so much of the world thinks it won't? Reuters, Russia faces challenges to have Sochi Games ready. And the list could probably go on. But that was just like a quick Google search. And it just goes to show you that every city, no matter where it is in the world, that becomes the host city for the Olympics ends up going through some trials and tribulations.
Yeah, and I'm kind of just tired of these headlines at this point because they come up every cycle. Even thinking Qatar, did they host the World Cup? I mean, there was a lot of justified concern around the World Cup in Qatar, but I think there are headlines there about will they be ready too. It's the same story every time. All of these cities are putting in a lot of work. I understand why things aren't getting done on time every time. And we're going to see these headlines again with Los Angeles. Los Angeles is like a permanent shit show. I still can't believe they're hosting the Olympics.
I know.
It's going to be a mess. Traffic is always so bad. Are they going to magically fix all that before the 2028 Olympics? Of course not.
You know, the crazy part is that if you talk to like our parents, right? And my mom, you know, my family is like third generation California. And they're like, oh, but like, LA has hosted the Olympics before. Yes, but LA is also now more populated than it was the last time they hosted the Olympics. And that makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
Shane, who
Huge
lives
difference.
in LA, is listening live right now, and he said construction in LA is already delayed, even though the city has hosted multiple times.
Yeah.
And there's so much red tape to cut through in California. That's probably going to be a huge factor in these delays.
Yeah. Also, hosting the Olympics is usually pretty bad for the host city. Like, you hear stories all the time about the effects on people who live there and like the long-term effects on poorer populations who oftentimes in one way or another get exploited as part of either like removing them from the area so that they're not like a quote unquote eyesore for tourists, or like leveraging them to do like free or cheap labor. It's just always a pretty sore deal for the community ultimately, like, because I'm a Debbie Downer, so I got to bring it up.
No, I get it. Because like even in San Francisco a few years ago, we hosted Super Bowl City, which is so dumb because the 49ers don't even play in San Francisco anymore. They play in Santa Clara. But San Francisco decided to foot the bill for that, which was, listen, I wasn't living in the city anymore, so it wasn't my tax dollars. But the point is that it costs the people that live there, right? In addition to the inconvenience, the money goes towards all that other shit that comes along with playing host city. And that is such a smaller scale to what we see with the Olympics. And it still kind of sucked. And also like the redirection, the traffic flow, just like the influx of people, obviously like the homeless situation too. Awful to see all those people get like pushed out to like one tiny little corner of the city. And that's it. LA does that a lot, like for, award shows and stuff like that. So they're kind of like old hands, honestly, but it still doesn't make it right. Well, I think that everybody kind of catches Olympic fever regardless of the issues. I know I'm going to be tuning in. I'm particularly excited for women's gymnastics, which I've always been a fan of. Anybody else excited to check out some of the events?
Yeah, well, especially what's been going on in recent months and years. It's a nice global unifier. And I always look forward to swimming. I was looking at the list of all the competitions coming up this year, and sport climbing is one I haven't watched yet, in part because it's almost brand new. It actually debuted at the 2020 Tokyo Games. So it's basically rock climbing. But then there's two different versions. There's a speed round, and then there's like a technical round where you're judged on the like the way you're climbing. So as somebody who's always who has always wanted to rock climb but hasn't, indoors, I don't want to do outdoor rock climbing. I think this would be pretty interesting to watch. So maybe I'll watch and pick up some tips before I actually indoor rock climb.
Christy in our Discord is adding, my niece will be competing in swimming.
Whoa,
that's really
cool.
cool. Congrats to your niece, Christy. I don't usually follow the Olympics very closely, but it's impossible to miss the viral moments that come out of it. So I'm sure there will be plenty of those that'll be attention grabbing. So I'll keep an eye out for those. I don't have a particular sport I'm going to follow though.
Laura's going to swipe right past all the videos on TikTok.
Yeah,
don't care.
like,
Don't care. Rock climbing, who cares? No, the swimming's really exciting. I think people get really, that's got to be one of the most popular ones, maybe in the world, but here in America, certainly it feels like it. And gymnastics.
Yeah, and diving. I think people get excited for like the high dives and stuff like that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
also like skateboarding is also back now. I always enjoy watching that. There's going to be breakdancing this year for the first time. It's called
That's
breaking.
right.
Yeah. So
That's
that
cool.
should be really fun. Yeah. And I always like I feel like the Olympics is something that you can't escape. Like I was telling Andrew when we were talking about planning this that, I'll like end up at like a bar or at a restaurant that has like screens and it's like everybody's watching the Olympics because they have it on TV. It's like, and then everybody gets like obsessed with whatever is happening on the television and stuff like that. So yeah, it's like a fun communal thing too, kind of sometimes inadvertently, even if you're not actually going.
I have never watched the Olympics at a bar, but you're inspiring me to keep an eye out for some events. Of course, the time difference is what's tricky too. And I know they delay some of the events here so we can watch them in prime time. But I think it'd be really fun to watch something live while I wait for football to come back in the fall. That could be a cool experience I haven't done before. So I'll keep an eye out, see if there's any cool events.
And I feel like you definitely could out in Vegas. Like they never go to sleep over there, right? You could definitely go to some random casino and they'll probably be hosting a watch party.
Yeah, I guess. Can I bet on these things? Can I bet on rock
Probably.
climbing? Can I bet on how much poop is going to be in the River Seine?
Yeah, maybe
I'm
we should
sure
do
it's
that
a
one
bet I
day.
would take.
I don't think we've ever had you bet on behalf of the show, but that's a missed opportunity.
Do it.
See if we can win some money. Looking ahead a little bit, we teased this a bit earlier on in the discussion, but the next Summer Olympics are actually going to be out in LA. That'll be in 2028. Andrew, you and I live fairly close to LA. I mean, is that on your radar? You thinking maybe you'll try for tickets?
I think I'd be insane not to try, given it's a 4-hour drive. I know people whose places I could crash at if I wanted to keep this as cheap as possible. When the Olympics were in London, was that 2016?
Sounds about right.
Yeah. I really wanted to go to an event then, and that was at the time where I was traveling more frequently over there for Harry Potter related reasons. So I just kind of had it in my head that for a while that I would go to something over there. Never did. I just feel like that's a once in a lifetime experience. That's a bucket list item. So yes, I would very much like to try. It can't hurt to price it out, see what the prices of the tickets are going to be. Then for me, it's very easy to drive and cheap to drive from here to there. I could just stay for one night if I really wanted to. Though traffic's going to take like 2 days to get there. Am I right?
No, right. Oh man.
No, but I would really like to try. Would you like to go, Pam?
Yeah, I think so. I feel like it would be foolish not to try. And I know that like you put this link in here about Paris ticket pricing. I heard that some tickets are actually pretty cheap.
Yeah, so you mentioned gymnastics. I'm going to look up the prices for you. H, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H. Okay, hold on. I'm almost there. Almost there in this big ass PD. I'm actually not even seeing gymnastics here. It goes from golf to handball.
What can we see? Can we go to swimming? How much is the swimming ticket?
Hold on. It's artistic gymnastics.
Okay.
They don't just call it gymnastics. That's the fucking French.
Wait, is there just regular gymnastics or do they always call it artistic gymnastics?
Shane in the Discord is saying you have to do a dumb sport so it's cheap.
Okay, let's pick a dumb sport. That's more fun.
What's a dumb sport? What's the first sport you see that you don't recognize?
Badminton.
Badminton's here. That's a good one. Okay.
How much would it cost to go to badminton?
I don't know what that is.
You don't know what badminton is?
It's like
not really.
It's like tennis, but with tiny rackets and tiny balls.
Yeah.
And it's a little bit more like frolicky. It's fun. We used to have to play badminton in PE.
Okay, so the worst seating in the venue costs 24 pounds.
Okay, that's not bad.
Okay.
Sorry,
Won't break
euros.
the bank. Okay.
No. Then if you want to splurge a little bit, get a little lower, you could 70 euros.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
First class tickets, as they're called, 130 euros. That's like prime center court seating. So Pam and Andrew go to badminton at the Summer Olympics in Los Angeles. Stay tuned in the year 2028.
Yeah.
We'll keep you guys updated on whether or not we win tickets.
Oh, yeah, that's the other thing. It's just going to be so hard to get tickets, even if you can pay for them.
I think, isn't it like a lottery system? Isn't that how it works?
I think so, but we see how those always go.
I also just feel like it's going to be hot as fuck.
That's why you pick an indoor sport.
Yeah.
Yeah. Define hot as fuck. I live in Vegas. LA will feel like a break.
No, but the thing is like,
isn't it more humid?
Yeah, it's dry heat,
Yeah.
but the sun is like strong in LA.
Okay.
And there's probably no covering.
I'll bring a hat and I'll bring my badminton
All right.
things.
And we'll stock up on liquid IVs.
Sure, yeah.
You'll keep the AC running in the Tesla in case I have to dip and go sit in there.
Yes. I will dare to go outside in Los Angeles, everybody. Stay tuned. LA in the summer. I've never done it before.
We're joking about this, but there was one time that I was covering a red carpet in LA and I got heat stroke. Because we were out there for so long.
And you call yourself a journalist. Don't you know how to survive on the red carpets by now, Pam? Come on.
I thought I did, but that one killed me.
I'm sorry to hear that happen. That's so
bad.
Good. All right. Well, yeah, I want to give it a shot. It would be a lot of fun, I think.
Yeah.
Once in a lifetime experience. Why not try?
Go pick up some merch, drive back.
Actually, one of my friends brought to the pool the other day Paris 2024 Olympic tote bag. I was like, "Oh, you went? That's awesome." He was like, "No, I just saw it in the airport while we were over there."
Oh,
like,
that's funny. Did it have
they
the
haven't happened
mascot
yet? So
on
what
it?
am I?
Their mascot is not cool.
The mascot, yeah, he's just like a blob.
It's like a red blob.
Yeah. Is it like supposed to be some kind of hat? Or
something it does kind of look like a hat.
Wore? But it's not even like, why not a beret? Like something recognizably French.
And there have also been like some super cute mascots in the past. Like the Tokyo mascots were so cute.
But what's really cute, I think, about this 99-page ticket PDF is that on each page, you see the mascot playing the sport. So like you see them playing basketball or boxing or riding a BMX bike. Like they did a really good job with this. I assume they do something like this every Olympics, but this is really cute. Pam did mention WTF News a few minutes ago and wanted to mention that we wanted to bring up the River Seine story because we did a new WTF News edition of the variety show that's available now on Patreon. We talked about lead being in Lunchables. We talked about the mysterious monolith at the top of a mountain in Vegas. And we talked about a gamer who flew across the country to beat up another gamer. And no, it wasn't Laura's Mark. So check that out at patreon.com/millennial. And coming up in After Dark this week, there was a story that went viral a couple weeks ago. This woman captured two people having a conversation on a plane, and the person who was filming it thought that the guy in the video was cheating on his wife. And of course, the internet went sleuthing, and it was just a really messy situation. So we're going to talk about if that's right or wrong, what we would do in this situation. And we're going to talk about being cheated on, if we've ever known somebody who was cheated on and what we did about it. So those items and more coming up in After Dark this week.
After Dark is part of Mega Millennial, which you get every week when you're a patron or Apple Podcast subscriber. Plus, it's ad-free. Visit patreon.com/millennial to pledge today. Spotify users will find a banner at the top of our show page, or Apple Podcast users can tap into the show and subscribe. I almost said Shopify.
Shopify.
That's all right.
We also have other Patreon benefits like live stream access, our monthly Zoom hangout, a new physical gift every year, and more. It's easy to get started. Apple Podcasts and Patreon offer 7-day free trials and annual subscription discounts.
It's time for recommendations, and I want to recommend a show I recently binged, Your Honor, on Netflix/Showtime. It's a Showtime show. Netflix bought the rights to it. And Bryan Cranston stars as a judge who will do anything to protect his son. It sometimes feels a little too Breaky Baddy to me, but I'm a huge Bryan Cranston fan, and I've been wanting to watch it for a while. And when I saw it trending on Netflix, it was in the top 10 shows in Netflix. I was like, okay, this is my chance. Let me hop in now, and then I'll be down with the people, because apparently a lot of people were binging it at the time. Set in New Orleans, which is fun, and I did end up really liking it. It's only 2 seasons, so it's pretty easy to get through. And I don't think it's coming back for a third, but don't let that deter you. I think it's 20 very good episodes in total.
And keeping in line with the Olympics theme, I wanted to recommend the Redeem Team documentary on Netflix. It's a few years old, but it's really good if you like sports documentaries. It tells the story of the 2008 men's Olympic basketball team. And as a bit of a sidebar for context, the U.S. basketball team is always usually made up of like NBA players. So these are like really big names that you probably recognize. But the team in 2008 is particularly significant because they were under a lot of pressure to come back and win the gold, because the U.S. men's basketball team suffered an embarrassing loss in 2004, and they got a bronze medal, which like they just felt like never should have happened, because obviously basketball is an American sport. And it's just like, the truth of the matter is that it's not just an American sport anymore. And there are a lot of overseas teams that play just as well as our pros do. So anyway, it's great. A lot of big names in the documentary. Kobe Bryant is in it, LeBron James, Dwayne Wade. Like, there's just so many people in there, and it's really good. Even if you're not a big basketball fan, I'm not the biggest basketball fan, but I like an inspirational documentary every once in a while. This is a good one if you're just trying to get into the Olympic spirit and want something easy to watch.
I have a recommendation that's like less of a recommendation and more of a request for a favor. So we are trying to increase our various shows' presences on YouTube. So I would like to recommend that you do us a favor and go and subscribe to the What the Hype podcast, MuggleCast, and Millennial Show channels on YouTube. It's completely free, and you're doing us a huge favor by subbing to our channels. Thank you so, so much.
Yeah, we're switching to full video episodes for MuggleCast and Millennial, in line with what we've been doing for What the Hype. Patrons still get the live, unedited video feed, but now we're getting with the times, if you will, and we're going to start doing video episodes of Millennial Show and MuggleCast. Millennial video episodes have not started yet, but they will in a few weeks. MuggleCast started with this week's episode, so definitely check that out. We're looking to put ourselves in front of a new audience in video form. Well, speaking of plugs, make sure you're following the show in your favorite podcast app so you never miss an episode, and please do leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify.
To stay in touch with us, email millennialshow@gmail.com or visit millennialshow.com. While there, you'll also find all the links to our various social media channels, so please do give us a follow there. Spotify users can also leave feedback directly within an episode.
That does it for this week's episode. After Dark starts in a moment for patrons and Apple Podcast subscribers. Thanks, everybody, for listening. Thank you, JD Vance, for tuning in to the official podcast of the first Millennial VP choice. I'm Andrew.
I'm Laura.
And I'm Pamela.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.